video where I thought it would be fun to talk about something that I think is super cool, yet unfortunately at the time of its release was extremely overlooked by many, and even today I think most people probably don't know too much about it. The reason for that though is because in 2004, Nintendo released this thing, the original Nintendo DS, and I absolutely love the DS. I got it the year that it came out for Christmas, and I have probably bought more brand new games for the DS than I have for any other console out there, because there was just so much awesome stuff to play on this thing. Plus it is also backwards compatible with Game Boy Advance games, so it was like the ultimate portable gaming package in the day. Everything I wanted to play at the time, I could play on this thing. As a result of that though, and how awesome and how many people were captivated by just how cool the Nintendo DS was at the time, when Nintendo released something else in 2005, it became extremely overlooked. And that thing is the Game Boy Micro. Of course, as someone who had just gotten the Nintendo DS and was looking at all the cool things coming up for that, it made no sense to me to buy a Game Boy Micro, especially since the Game Boy, or the Nintendo DS, also played Game Boy Advance games. Because of that, I think a lot of people kind of overlooked this thing, and despite the fact it is actually really neat, it just did not, I don't think, sell very well. So I thought what it would be fun to do today is have a look at the Game Boy Micro, take a closer look at it, while also kind of unboxing what it was you would have got had you actually been one of the people who bought it new back in 2005. And since I own it, we are also actually going to be looking at the Game Boy, or rather the Japanese version of the Game Boy Micro box as well, because they are actually quite different. I'm not sure who made that decision, but I just thought it would be rather neat to throw that in so you can kind of compare, the designs of the boxes and just kind of what is going on inside. So, without further ado, let us get into opening up the North American version of the Game Boy Micro box. So the first thing that you probably notice about the box is that there's actually this window on the front here that allows us to see everything that we are going to be getting once we buy the Game Boy Micro. Having a window like this on the front of an official Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft console is very rare. I think maybe the PSP also had a version which had a window like this so you could see what you were buying, but otherwise definitely not a common feature of console boxes. Also, the box is not completely rectangular, as you do have kind of slanted edges on the front two corners here. Otherwise, all of the sides just kind of say the name of the console, and on the back you get a description of what exactly it is you are buying in 3 different languages: smaller, sleeker, and brighter. The Game Boy Micro has all the power to play your favorite Game Boy Advance games in an incredibly small size. You can put it in your pocket or wear it on your wrist. That is such a kind of odd remark. I wonder if maybe there was like an attachment, like a wrist kind of band where you could then put your Game Boy Micro on it. Not sure exactly how you would play it if it's attached to your wrist, but that's what it's advertised, so I guess, you should probably be able to do it somehow. And as far as what is included goes, you get a black Game Boy Micro, 2 additional faceplates, an AC adapter, and a carrying pouch. So that is what we can expect to see after we crack open the box. And you can do that from either the left or the right side. So we can kind of just pull this piece out here and open this up. And we can then remove the inside contents. So one thing that we need to note though is that there is a plastic piece here, and there is also kind of a plastic piece which we remove from the white piece of cardboard here as well. So keep that in mind if you're ever buying one used. There is supposed to be an additional kind of thing here which keeps everything in place. As far as what we actually get inside the box though, we of course get the Game Boy Micro. It looks very nice. And the other thing that was shown through that window is kind of 2 faceplates here, which is kind of stay nicely hooked inside these holes. And we're definitely going to talk a little bit more about the faceplates in a minute and how exactly you change them and such, but yeah, they're like nicely stuck in there, so you can even lift up this piece of cardboard and they will not fall off. Other things, including the AC adapter and the instruction manual, are actually stuck inside this piece of white cardboard box here, which we will open up in a second, because there's actually a few things I want to talk about the Game Boy Micro itself. So here it is, the console in all of its sleek glory. Your L and R buttons on top, your charging port, your B and A buttons, your D-pad, start and select, where the game goes in, on and off switch, headphone port. So it's nice to see, these days they're getting rid of that, but even something as small as this can still have that going on. And your volume control, and on this side, there are two kind of little dots here, which are important, and we will get to that again when we talk about the faceplate in a little bit. Also, as it should be noted though, the silver kind of thing here is also counted as a faceplate. This is not kind of just like, you know, the stock way that it looks. You can even remove the silver part, and, you know, there's some other stuff underneath that, but again, we'll talk about that when we get to the faceplates in a second. Let me bring a game over here and let us insert it, and you will see it just goes in all of the way. It's not like the Nintendo DS Lite or anything like that where it sticks out a little bit. It's very snug and nice looking in there. If we just turn that switch on, we can see the quality that we get from the Game Boy Micro. The screen looks very nice. It is backlit, unlike some of the later versions of the Game Boy Advance, or sorry, rather, of the original Game Boy Advance SP had the front-lit lights, while the later versions of the Game Boy Advance SP had the backlit lights. So that is what the Game Boy Micro has as well. And also, yes, again, the volume switch on the side, so it's not kind of a scroll wheel or kind of, you know, something that you push back and forth to control. You actually have to push it either up or down to raise or lower the volume. Or you can just hold it if you want to, like, you know, increase it at a faster rate. And I don't know if you could hear that little bit of a beep there that indicated that the volume was all the way up. The picture is very nice. Because the screen is smaller than other kind of Game Boy Advance handheld consoles, the pixels are smaller, everything looks very clear and crisp. Let me turn that down so that's not too loud for all you. Let me bring in some other Game Boy Advance consoles here so that we can compare. This is the size of the, of course, original Game Boy Advance. You can definitely see not only is the console different in size, but the screen size definitely differs quite significantly as well. It is quite smaller. And here is the Game Boy Advance SP, and it's not too much smaller than the Game Boy Advance SP when you compare them like side by side or anything like that. However, again, the screen does have that kind of smaller appearance to it. And again, this is one of the original versions of the Game Boy Advance, so if we turn it on, you can definitely see how the backlight of it definitely lacks compared to the backlight that you get with the Game Boy Micro. Again, they did update the Game Boy Advance SP to the version 101, which had a backlit light, the same quality that the Game Boy Micro eventually had. But yeah, it's just a very cool way to play your games. It looks nice, it sounds nice. If I had to say one thing, I'm not such a fan of it though. The start and select buttons are a little awkward. Like, you hold it like this, it's very horizontal, and I don't know, I just sometimes have trouble getting my fingers to them when I want to very quickly. Also, the L and R buttons I find aren't the most responsive at times. They're a little bit weird to deal with, but I do have to say that it's still a cool way to play, but if you have big hands like me, it definitely can be a little bit difficult at times. Overall though, a very nice piece, and that is just kind of a look at the console itself. Again though, we do have a little bit of something on the side there we're going to come back to in just a second, but I want to look at what is inside that white cardboard box first. Alright, so back with this thing here, we still have our faceplate stuck to the front, but if we turn it around, we can undo this kind of flap and see just what is hiding inside. I mean, the back of the box kind of alluded to it, but it's not completely correct because it never mentioned this kind of white piece of plastic here. Oh man, incredibly important white plastic, which we will talk about in a minute. But otherwise, there is also, oh, we got a faceplate falling off there, which is totally fine. We'll just save that for when we talk about the faceplates in a minute. We have the AC adapter. Now, it's very important that you note that this AC adapter is not the same one that is used with any other portable Nintendo console. The closest thing that it looks like almost is a Nintendo DS Lite kind of connector, except it's actually a different size. It's definitely not the same as the one for like the SP or anything like that. It's very different, and it's not the same as the one for like the original DS or anything like that. So if you find the Game Boy Micro, I would think maybe one of your biggest problems would be getting the correct AC adapter, unless maybe there's aftermarket ones out there, which would not surprise me. But if you do buy a Game Boy Micro, definitely keep in mind that the AC adapter is not one that is used for any other Nintendo console. Otherwise, inside the box here, the last thing which we have to take out is all of the booklets and such. Let me clear some room here. And we're going to have a quick look at those right now. Lots of kind of different things going on. Let me just get all of those out here. Just like that. Unfortunately, this one's a little bit curled up. With the way that the box is designed, I'm not sure how exactly this one was ever intended to stay flat, but that is how it was when I originally got my hands on it. Otherwise, here we have the Game Boy Micro instruction booklet. Now, it's pretty thick, because I guess it probably has like all of the languages that were on the back of the box all kind of compressed into one instruction manual. So it's just kind of, it goes on in all of those different languages. But the English section goes up to page 29. Now, we're not going to read this thing in its entirety, because I don't think that, you really need too much of an instruction on how to use the Game Boy Micro, but we will point out some things which are kind of noteworthy. This kind of reveals here that those two dots I was mentioning are the faceplate ejector holes. And it mentions here that the faceplate ejector holes are used to switch faceplates, and we will see more about that on page 20, so we're going to work our way there. Otherwise, definitely there's not like, too many, pictures or anything to really enjoy while you are flipping through here. The cool thing though is that on this page it mentions kind of some of the different ways that you can do multiplayer and such with the Game Boy Micro. Because one thing you might have noticed is that there is actually no link cable port or such. It mentions that you can buy like dongles or special cables which are compatible with the Game Boy Micro, but you would have had to like order those online, or they may have been sold in stores in extremely limited quantities. I have never personally seen any kind of cable that is compatible with the Game Boy Micro, so I'm assuming that they're probably a lot like the upgraded video cable for the GameCube, where since you could like only order it online, they are probably extremely rare. And here it is revealed just what that white piece of plastic is for. There are those two dots I mentioned on the side of the Game Boy Micro, and inserting that tool into there will allow you to lift the faceplate up, and we will demonstrate that in a second. Also, some battery pack replacement information, not something I've ever done, so I can't say I know too much about that. And then you just get into troubleshooting, and in case you didn't know what the ESRB stands for, it stands for ESEAT. It's probably a bad word in some language. Otherwise, we get your health and safety manual. It just kind of like folds open. It tells you, don't play it in the bathtub. Never would have been able to figure that one out. We do have a little bit of a book here which advertises games which were out at the time. Of course, I mean, the Game Boy Advance library was already huge, and it was like, still even getting better at the time. So you got like Mario's Power Tennis, DK King of Swing, Dynasty Warriors, Zelda the Minish Cap. I love the Game Boy Advance just as much as like I love the DS. I mean, I probably love the DS more, but the Game Boy Advance was also just such a fantastic console. Like, you can't go wrong with the Super Mario Advance games. It's not advertised here about like the e-reader compatibility though. Unfortunately, I guess this was probably at the point when Nintendo gave up on it in North America, which is too bad. Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Of course, all the Pokemon: Emerald, Sapphire, Ruby, Leaf Green, Fire Red. Awesome. WarioWare Twisted. Very good game. Yoshi's Topsy Turvy. And of course, Mario and Donkey Kong, an epic game, which unfortunately never had a true sequel, which was very disappointing. Otherwise, we get an advertisement to sign up for Nintendo Power. These used to come with like everything Nintendo related. They always mention that, you'd get free stuff if you got a subscription. I do quite miss Nintendo Power. Only 5 issues away though from having that complete set. And unfortunately, this one here, like I said, a little bit curled up, but it mentions going online. I think if we open this up, there has to be, where's the English hiding? Where is it? There it is. There's the English. Go on there and you could register your stuff with Nintendo. You could get access to their message boards. Going on like Nintendo.com used to be a lot of fun with all the kind of crazy different things that you could do on there. So those are the contents of the box. But like I said, we now need to return to this piece of plastic here. We need to get our hands on our Game Boy Micro. And if you insert this piece into where these two holes are, it lets you pop up the faceplate and change it with other ones. Of course though, just as the AC adapter is probably a little bit hard to find these days, I'm sure that this piece is probably even more obscure, but thankfully if you have a toothpick or any kind of thin object which fits in there, you are also perfectly okay. And there we go. So it lifts up just like that, can be removed, and here you have to see everything that's underneath that. So like there's actually like the screen under there. You definitely want to get your faceplate back on as quickly as possible though, as to not accidentally get any fingerprints on the actual screen. But yeah, this kind of gives you a look at what exactly happens underneath the faceplate, which is very cool. So if we put that down there, and we bring over our camouflage one here, it just snaps in very nicely. I think you want to put the right side in first, then proceed with the left side, and it clicks in there, and there you go. It's nice and snug. And then if you want to remove it again, you can just once again use those 2 dots. So that's how you remove the faceplate. Most people probably don't realize that that's how it works, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get it off there. It definitely locks in very nice, and it's not going to fall off as long as it is in correctly. And I think that is all we really need to look at as far as the North American Game Boy Micro box goes. So now let us move on to the Japanese box. So the first thing you're going to notice about the Japanese box is that there's no kind of window on the front which allows you to see what exactly it is you are buying inside. Whoever designed the boxes for this one and the other one definitely had completely different ideas in mind. Otherwise, you just kind of get the name of the console on the sides. But I really like the bottom, is it really goes into way more detail than the North American one regarding exactly what is compatible with the Game Boy Micro and what is not. Here we have an X saying it's not compatible with any kind of Nintendo DS stuff. We have a circle with an asterisk saying it's compatible with some Game Boy Advance things, but not others. And we have an X indicating that it is not compatible with any original Game Boy or Game Boy Color games or accessories. So the reason we get the asterisk here though is not because of game compatibility. The Game Boy Micro is compatible with all Game Boy Advance games, but as far as accessories go, it is not compatible with the link cable, the e-reader or the e-reader plus, the wireless adapter, or the GameCube and Game Boy Advance connection cable. So I definitely appreciate kind of the extra detail it goes into explaining what is going on with the Game Boy Micro. And on top we get a list of the contents, which include the main console unit, the AC adapter, the console holding pouch, and the instruction manual. The North American one also came with the pouch, although I realize now that it was not in my box at the time of unboxing it. I do own it, and it does look exactly identical to the pouch which we are going to see inside this box. So just imagine that when I unboxed my North American one, it also included the pouch in there. Unfortunately, if we look at the bottom though, my box does have quite a bit of damage, but that makes some sense when you consider exactly how this box opens. It's not as simple as it seems. There's almost kind of a puzzle going on, where you need to undo this flap, but unlike the last box where we had a choice on which side we opened it from, you also need to undo this flap before you open anything up, because how the box actually opens is the entire center piece slides out. So if either of those tabs are still in place, you're going to be ripping them as you try to open this piece here. And here we have our Game Boy Micro. It's not exactly easy to get it out there. Got to be very careful. This is the silver version. As you can see, the North American one that we looked at had black all around the edges, but this is the silver version that Japan got. Otherwise, though, identical to the North American console. Actually, the back, I believe, looks a little bit different there. Exactly, regarding the text and stuff that you're getting. And then this piece here lifts up, and it reveals some other things underneath. So this is the pouch. That also came with the North American one that I forgot to show. And as you can see, your Game Boy Micro just fits very nicely in there. So, I mean, if it's in your pocket and such, it will not get scratched, as it could potentially easily do. But that's, of course, the good part about the faceplate, too, is that you could buy replacements and different colors of those at the time. So if it got a little bit scratched up, I mean, you were definitely okay in just getting a replacement one of those. And the same AC adapter as came with the North American one. Unfortunately, I do not have the instruction manuals and such, but for most people, I mean, you wouldn't be able to read them anyway. So that is totally okay. Let's just put all that back in there, though. And that is the look at the Japanese version of the Game Boy Micro. I thought it was just definitely fun to kind of show that as well, because the box is so different. Let me know, which one do you think looks cooler? And with that said, I think that is all that I really have to talk about this very obscure and underrated console. So I hope that you had a lot of fun kind of just looking at that. Let me know what your experiences are with the Game Boy Micro, if you had one growing up, maybe when it was new, if you've ever tried one. And yeah, let me know if there's anything else you think would be fun for me to unbox. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time for something different. So thanks, and see you later.